We're missing a member, but he's on his way. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, March 14th, 2018 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. We'll kick off, we'll open the meeting and review and approve the minutes of February 21st, 2018. At 6:35, we have a continuation of the special permit, 26 Long Ave. There being any, at 7 o'clock, we'll discuss old or new business, and if everybody's in agreement, we'll adjourn. Since we have a few minutes, why don't we do old and new business now? Tom, any old or new business?
No, I haven't. Should we review the minutes or wait for Mike on that?
I would be waiting for Mike.
Okay. No, I have nothing.
Old are you? Ms. Thorpe?
I have nothing.
Have nothing?
Nothing.
No, surely you have some.
I wish I did, but I don't.
All right. Well then. All right. So why don't we do that? Why don't we deal with the meeting minutes, Wednesday, February 21st, 2018. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes? Any questions, comments, concerns, or edits? Liz?
On page 2, after the bullet points, in that next paragraph, in the second sentence, the ZBA had previously granted a determination 6-0 to the application for the raise and rebuild with a D.
Ah, thank you.
You're welcome. And that's all I have.
Just one more on page 3. The third bullet point says the paper road, I think it's missing a has. The paper road has not been documented at this time.
Yes, thank you.
Has not been what?
Documented at this time.
I may have some information on that.
This was from the last
Yeah,
meeting,
this is
though.
just
Oh, the last meeting,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah, excuse me.
Michael?
Yes, no,
Okay.
I have no questions
All
on
right.
the minutes.
So are we ready to take a vote on the approval of the minutes? I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the draft minutes dated February 21st, 2018.
I make a motion, we accept the amended minutes from Wednesday, February 21st, 2018.
Will there be a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Any abstentions? Okay. The meeting minutes are so approved. All right, so 6:35, we can kick off our special permit, and if fabulous Miss Liz Banks would read the notice, please.
Town of Sturbridge Zoning Board of Appeals Public Hearing Notice, Special Permit, Ruth Fitzgerald. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, the Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Center Office Building located at 308 Main Street on February 21st, 2018, at 6:35 p.m. on the application of Ruth Fitzgerald, 26 Long Ave, Sturbridge, Mass. The applicant is requesting a special permit pursuant to Chapter 20, Section 20.05 of the zoning bylaws to expand, change, or alter a pre-existing non-conforming use and structure for the property located at 26 Long Ave. The applicant is proposing a 6-foot addition on the house currently under construction with a proposed 9-foot porch on the rear of the house. A copy of that application may be inspected at the office of the town clerk during regular business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on this petition should appear at the time and place designated zoning board of appeals. Do I have to leave your name?
You can if you'd like. You don't have to.
Okay. And this is a continuation of the hearing.
All right, so I guess I want to just tee this up. First and foremost, when we met on the 21st, we had 5 members, and as you folks may recall, there was some questions that the board needed some answers and clarification to. And so we continued this meeting with the thought that today we would have 7 members of the board, because you need 5 in order for this special permit to pass the ZBA. Unfortunately, Marge Cooney not feeling well, and so we don't have her. So we have 6 members, which you're entitled to be heard, but I guess, you know, my thought was at the last meeting that 7, if you're going for a special permit, you want 7 members sitting on the board. You're down to 6, you need 5. So I guess my question before we kick things off is, how do you feel about that? Do you want to continue with this meeting today? Or do you want to continue to a date where you're assured that you're going to have 7 ZBA members hearing your case?
I'm perfectly all set with going forward today.
You are?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So, we met last, and I'm just going to take this from the meeting minutes. There was some concerns about the paper road. There were some concerns about the 10% increase in lot coverage, and whether or not it would be detrimental to the site. There were concerns, and I think, if I recall, there were some issues regarding the drainage, as well as this proposed space underneath that would house gardening implements, for lack of a better description. There were some concerns about the shed, whether the shed sat on the property or didn't sit on the property, all going toward whether or not this particular proposal increases the nonconformity, and whether or not the intensification, if it does intensify the nonconformity, is more or less detrimental to the surrounding neighborhood. The lot coverage is going to increase by 10%, bringing the total lot coverage up to roughly 50%. The shed appeared to be observed on the paper road. The shed was not used in the calculations, as I recall. So, before I turn it over, does that sound about right with respect to your recollection?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we are in receipt of some correspondence from attorney Nancy Coderre. And so I assume that's your lawyer. And I'm going to read it, because I think this needs to get in the record. It says, Ruth, and that's too. First, I apologize that I got you at such a bad time this morning, and that I did not have Jeff here in the office to clarify things for me. He returned at noon, and now I have been able to speak with him. What Jeff sent you was the tape survey, also known as the plot plan, which, as you know, showed the lot as being 30 by 100 feet, with the shed located outside the property lines. What you sent to Jeff, and that's Jeff Coder, I believe.
Isn't that him?
Oh, that's you? All right, I see a Jeff
Well, actually, no, I think it was her legal assistant, not Jeff.
okay.
I can't think of his last name at the moment.
Now I see a Jeff Coder on this email as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, what you sent to Jeff, what you received from Gene was a copy of a section of the town assessor's maps. That map does not show the location of any structures on the property. If you look again at that assessor's map, you will see that the 169.2 feet to which you referred included a line that extends beyond the property. That line comprised of two other areas set forth as 25 feet and 42.2 feet. It is actually the length of the line for the lot to the north of the premises, shown as number 28 on the assessor's map. I do understand that when you have physically shown the property, you believe that the backyard extended further back than it actually does. You also asked me who owns that land. I do not know for sure. The legal description refers to a plan prepared in 1928, and at that time, the property on which the shed sits was a street called Eastern Ave. That is a paper street because it never actually became a real street. Under the law, the people who own property which abuts a paper street actually own one half of that street, subject to the rights of the others to use the street. Those rights never disappear, even though in actuality it likely will never get used. We do not know how wide that street was because the 1928 plan does not tell us. The shed is about 12 feet long and sits about 3 feet from the back line of the premises. I would guess that the paper street may have been 20 feet wide, and so, if that is anywhere near accurate, only a small part of that shed extends beyond the half of the paper street that is owned by the sellers. Furthermore, if a structure approaches on the land of another for more than 20 years without permission, having been granted for that encroachment to exist, it is permitted to continue to encroach through a legal principle called adverse possession. Proving that a party adversely possesses something needs to be done through a lengthy and costly court proceeding, and so it is certainly not worth pursuing. I'm explaining all of this just so you can feel more informally comfortable that no one will force you to move that shed. I also know that this is not what you bargained for. I briefly spoke with Gene, and I assume that's not Gene Boubon. I assume it's Gene.
She was the real estate agent.
The real, okay. Gene, and she tells me that she will negotiate further on your behalf. I will sit tight until I hear from either you or her. I have received a proposed purchase and sale agreement ready for your review, but it obviously cannot be signed until the issues are resolved. If you have questions or concerns before then, please let me know. As an aside, you commented that it is unlikely that the shed could be located on another person's land. Unfortunately, it's actually more common than one might think. Years ago, tape surveys weren't prepared for people, and many folks just guessed about their boundaries. We often find sheds that encroach, but finding one that is actually totally outside of the boundary lines is certainly more rare. I attach a copy of the legal description and a copy of the 1928 plan. They own the I'm not sure who they is, but they own the southerly one half of lots 61 and 71 on that plan, as well as 5 feet of the northerly portion of lots 62 and 72. As I tried to explain, by law, they also own the westerly one-half of Eastern Ave. Hope this helps. Thank you, Attorney Nancy Coder. Okay. So, teeing up, why don't you folks go ahead and reintroduce yourself to the board and the community, which is watching very closely on TV.
I'm Jeff Linnell, I'm the builder.
And I'm Ruth Fitzgerald, and I purchased the property at 26 Long Ave. And the original house was in bad repair, and Jeff decided it was really too hard to do what we wanted to make it a little bit bigger, and also we tore it down and we're building a brand new structure.
Okay.
So in the meantime, the original plans, I was a little disappointed with the back room. That's a studio space. I'm an artist and painter, and that's gonna be my workspace, and it wasn't quite as big as I had hoped it would be, so that is why I'd like to make the house a little bit bigger.
Okay. So I wanna turn it over to the board for questions, comments, concerns. You know, I'm not sure, frankly, that the attorney's letter got us closer to where we wanted to be in terms of our analysis as to whether or not this would be permissible under a special permit, and more specifically, whether, you know, is actually more or less detrimental to the neighborhood. But that being said, let's turn it over to our members here for further question, comment, and concern. And Liz, I see you chomping at the bit.
No, we can start at one of the ends, it's fine.
Okay, we'll start at the right end, Mr. Tom Earls.
With respect to the paper street, I went through the deeds with Rebecca and pulled out the deeds that surround your property. And yours, of course, says 100 by 30, and that's 3,000 square feet, that's it. And you know where that's marked out now and so on. What I found was that the Eastern Avenue, the address of the house behind and to the right of it is 16 Eastern Avenue. And I went through the green cards, and you seem to have gotten green cards back from everyone, is that right, Rebecca?
Yes.
You got them all back,
I
and
believe
there's no
so.
one here. So there's no conflict with them, apparently, in your doing this.
The neighbors have no problem with it.
You're all fine with it. With respect to the paper street, the deed at 16 Eastern Avenue calls out a lot that should be, where's the map? 42 feet. You've got 142 feet on one measurement on one side of your lot, right? 100 plus 42. And the other one at the other end is 100 plus 79, I think. When you read the deed for Eastern Avenue, for 16 Eastern Avenue, they start with a dimension of 72 4/5 at the back of the lot, and then they go 103 feet in one direction. Then it's 44 feet to an iron pin at the easterly side of Eastern Avenue, and then 25 feet across Eastern Avenue.
Right, it says right here on the map that roads are 25 feet. So even in 1928, this from 1928 is 25 feet.
Yes, and then it goes back across Eastern Avenue again, which means their lot behind and closes the entire, what we're looking at as a paper street at that point. Do you understand that, and does that meet with what you've been thinking?
I just threw that paper road out there because after I went through the sections and everything that pertained to this situation, I threw that out there as a separation from her property to the property behind.
Okay, what
Just
I,
as a separation, as one point to make, not as anything to, as this far.
what I seem to have found in the deeds is that it definitely is a part of the other lot. It's not 12 and a half, or, I'm sure that this is one of the things that lawyers could kick around for years, but it's in their deed. And your deed doesn't say that you own any part of that land, right? So I think we have to assume that that land belongs to 16 Eastern Avenue.
And is that the guy right out behind?
Yes, just to the right.
He has no idea. He also knows of the paper road, and as far as he's concerned, half and half.
Okay, legally, I just want to establish as much as we can. He's not here to say that either, but in any case, just legally, the paper street, I think, either it doesn't seem to exist because of this deed. Their deed says they own it. Okay, just to clarify that. And I know that that has some bearing on what we're thinking about, or whether or not your property or your proposal will infringe on the neighbor's property at all.
Can I interject with something?
Yeah.
I had the lot surveyed twice. Even the surveyor finds that paper road still. I just had all this paperwork done within the last 3 or 4 months, and he still finds that paper road. That's the only reason that I know about the paper road, is because I had the surveyor go there, survey the property, then I had him go back and pin the house for me to make sure everything was in the right spot, and then I had to have him go back and resurvey the property and draw me another piece of paper with the intended addition on it. And each time he came up with that paper road. There's a section where her shed sits now is all overgrown.
Oh, I know, I've looked at it, you know, I've been up
That's
there
very
again a
detrimental
couple
to the
times.
neighborhood. So, we don't want to use that. I
Right,
just threw that out there as a separation from her property to the neighbors behind
Okay.
her.
I understand.
You know, it's interesting because I asked the attorney about this before the closing. And, you know, to be sure about, you know, what she wrote about the rules and the paper road and sort of quasi ownership or whatever. And in their title search, they didn't find anything, you know, the back, because I was worried about that. Whose property is this? And she said that, and obviously they were wrong, but she said that they would have found it in their title search. So it's odd that you were able to find it and they weren't.
I just looked at the deeds surrounding and came up with that. That their deed says that their line crosses that road in 2 places, and they own what's in between.
I believe it does cross the road in 2 places.
Yeah.
One would be their driveway, and the other one would, the paper road has to be gone. Something had to have been done with the paper road, because the neighbor, if you're looking at the front of the project, if you're looking at the left side, their fence goes all the way across the supposed paper road. And the Eastern Ave should have gone right across the back of those properties.
Right.
Well, the house next door threw the fence up and built a garage on that. So something, maybe you found up-to-date documents, but I'm sure that the surveyor that I paid thousands of dollars to do with, he's finding it still.
I'm not that concerned with it, I just, and there was something in here that, whoever they are, in
I
the
believe
last
so.
line of this, of Nancy Kadere's memo, says that they own the southerly half of lot 61 and 71 on that plan, as well as 5 feet of the northerly portion of 62 and 72. And by law, they also own the westerly half of Eastern Avenue.
So do they own any of 61 and 71? Because I believe that's our lot. According to this assessment map right here, it's lot 61 and lot 71, not 62 and 72. Can't really see right now, but
60 and 72 are the lots that abut First Street, or South First Street, whatever it is.
except that they've been redivided from this plan. Are those dimensions on 61, 50 feet across? Can you read that dimension?
61 is 100. Says 100.
They're both 50 feet, right? 61 and 62 are 50 feet across.
According to this
Is it
1928 plan.
Yeah, and then each lot is how deep?
50? Is it 50?
50 feet deep also?
South Street.
Yeah.
Versus an original lot, it should be 100 feet deep.
50 by 100.
Yes, okay. And what, they subdivided these again. The lot we're talking about is, straddles the line between 61 and 62. Is that right? Do you agree?
I don't really know.
That was a question, but in view of the fact, and I know you've had discussions with your neighbors, they're not concerned about it. But it's something I think that we'd have to take into consideration in finalizing your determination.
Special permit.
The other justification for building the addition on the addition, or had to do with drainage in a wet backyard, that the backyard is wet.
Correct. As a stipulation of conservation, I can't fill the backyard. I can't change the elevation of the yard because the water will run off into neighboring yards. When we first started the project, I was supposed to put a concrete foundation in. When we started digging, it was extremely wet. So the house is now put on poles,
Right.
technopoles, which created, the house is 20 by 50. So under the house is 1,000 square feet of drainage right now. It's all stone, it's all drainage, everything pitches under the house.
Okay.
For the addition, I would do the same. Bring it out 2 feet past the eaves on each side and stone underneath the whole house. The garden tools, it's not going to be a shed, it's not gonna be a door under there. There has to be a door under there anyways, because I have to put a skirt around or everything's gonna freeze under the house.
Right.
It's just a place for her to throw her tools in on a shelf. Not anything special built, not anything, it's just under the house.
Okay, the difficulty I see there would be that that part of the drainage wouldn't go under the building into the stone at that point, for as long as that door is. But I don't see that as being a significant problem anyway. I think there was one other, but let me think about it. Go ahead.
Mary Ann Thorpe.
Hi,
How are you?
good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So you came before us this year, like in the summertime, correct?
For the addition, yeah.
Right.
For that actual house, yeah.
Okay. So I'm just curious, your studio wasn't a part of that plan when you first came before us?
It was.
It was.
But once I put the stairs in, the studio stairs to the loft, shortened it up another 4 feet, and then the laundry room, it's a little smaller than it looks on paper. So when it was actually built,
But it was part of your plans that you brought before us, and it was, you agreed, it was your studio, is gonna be your studio. So now you wanna put an addition on that for your studio?
Make the studio room a little bigger.
So how small is it right now?
right now it's 12 by 14 maybe.
Okay. So you brought it down, your conformity down by 1% when you came before us the last time, correct? Your nonconformity?
Correct, we brought that down. Right?
Now you wanna add almost 11% back on. Okay. I was just curious if that part of that addition, which it wasn't an addition when you first came before us, it was part of the house, if that was what it was gonna be used for. So You do have a studio, it's just not big enough for you, correct? Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
Liz?
Okay, in the letter from your, oh, by the way, thank you very much for staking out the property.
Very welcome.
I went and it was done very, very well. It says, it refers to the town assessor's maps. Do you have a copy of that assessor's map that she's talking about?
This is the map that we have with the paperwork. I believe everybody has a copy of it. This is all I have.
Okay.
And it actually shows Eastern Ave on it. And
It does.
actually,
Yeah,
if I'm correct, it is lot 61 and 71 that we're referring to, that is
So,
Mr. Fitzgerald's lot.
all right, so, she said that she got it from the town, wait. If you look again. The town's assessor's map. So, but I went to the assessor's office and I did get a assessor's map. And, on it, Eastern Ave does not go down, all the way down to the property.
Correct.
It stops. So, like Tom said, it doesn't go behind behind the property that we're talking about. It stops about 160 feet prior to getting there. So.
Can I explain that a little bit? This is my thought on why that road doesn't go all the way. When you're looking at our project, the people on the right, they have a shed there that has been there for probably 30 or 40 years. So in the letter from the attorney, it says, if you're using that property for better than 20 years, it's just yours.
Well,
We don't want to take it. I'm not looking to have that property, I'm not looking, the paper road, as I said, was just to create the separation that people were worried about in the section of the bylaw.
but I'm saying that, according to the town's assessor's map, Eastern Ave stops 2 lots before, your lot. And it does not go behind them. I mean, since 1928, they have redone all the lots,
understand,
so
yeah.
things are different. So it's really a moot
Trying to
point.
see. Because I did look at this several times and had trouble printing it out at home.
So this is the assessor's map.
That's the assessors from the town.
And the assessor, according to this
This
assessor's
is the
map,
law.
a paper street does not impact this Fitzgerald's lots. Is that correct?
Does it impact
Yeah. Well,
which lot?
Well,
This
this
is the
Fitzgerald's
lot
property.
right here.
Is that what your premise is?
My premise is, yeah, it doesn't, doesn't go behind the
Oh,
house.
okay.
It ends over here, and it doesn't
This would be it
impact.
right here. See this 25-foot here
Yeah,
and this 25-foot here?
yeah.
That's where Eastern Avenue would have been. That's
A
the
what?
20, that's why it's separate like that. Because this is 25 feet wide here, Eastern Avenue.
Yeah.
And then here, there is no, it's completely blocked off. But down here, that 25 feet at each end signifies that this was where Eastern Ave would have been extended.
Okay.
And it won't, as you're saying, they won't show that on the map because they haven't taken that as the street yet. But they have every right to take that street, to use that property that goes behind those 2 houses, whoever they is. And as for the surveyors, the town of Sturbridge that owns that property. But that's all, it's just confusion thrown into this.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks, Liz.
Um,
You have more?
What?
You have more?
It also said that on the back, on the second paragraph down, I have received a proposed purchase and sale agreement ready for your review, but obviously cannot sign. So you haven't actually bought the property yet?
Oh, yeah, this was before the closing. This was just
That was
all,
in May, that was
last
March.
Dated.
time we were here.
Oh,
That's maybe the date I
October
printed out.
19th, 2016.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so this
I
was
was
part of.
I was looking at this date up here.
What happened was when the real estate agents showed me the property,
Yeah.
she included the papers, what we are calling the paper street, kind of the strip in the back of the yard, that the property went all the way back to the edge where the neighbor behind it put, I think it's one of those electronic fences to keep a dog in, it's just a wire. So, you know, they showed me the property and they said the yard goes back to here, so I thought, okay, this is good. And then when they started doing the title searches and more research, you know, for the closing, that's when it came up that, you know, the property was actually shorter and that this was a paper street. So then, what that was all about was in the end, you know, I had made an offer on the property, but because the property wasn't as big as they told me it was, I said then, well, I would offer $5,000 less because it's a much smaller yard than I anticipated. And they said fine, and the sale went through. So there was this process about discovery on that.
Okay.
Fidelis?
No question.
Mr. Young?
No questions. As I recall, the main thing we were looking for at the end of the last meeting was the verification of the paper street, because we didn't have any verification of that whatsoever at the last meeting.
Okay.
There's still a question of ownership of it. And the only, you suggested the town owns it, or your surveyor thought the town owned it.
Yeah.
According to this deed, which I got the other day, for 16 Eastern Avenue, they own it. 16 Eastern Avenue owns that, the whole 25 feet. So the difference is whether or not you would have open access. If it was the town's property, I can't see there being a problem with it. The fact that the difficulty is you want to build within 11 feet of it, which is an additional non-conformance. And now that gives you one non-conformance on every side of the house, you know. But I think it matters to me that there's no one has really clear possession of the property. It does seem to be deeded to this guy at 1600, or 16 Houston Avenue, but whether that makes a difference in our thinking, as opposed to the town might have it, or,
If he thought he owned it, and if he had a problem with it, he had every right to come to the meeting.
you know,
But I've spoken to the gentleman out back, and ownership is still up in the air. They have no idea.
So let me just throw this out there. Why do we care about the paper street?
Thank you very much for that. I'll second that.
Well, just
The only reason I care.
stand by. That's a sort of a hypothetical question here. Why do we care about the paper street? As a matter of bylaw, and whether or not this project intensifies a nonconformity, and, you know, whether or not it's more detrimental to the neighborhood, why do we care about the paper street?
Could we possibly pause this? There's an SUV blocking Kevin outside. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
You can contemplate the paper street and your feelings.
Why do we care? Michael?
Why do we care? Well, I think it was a matter of proximity to neighbors' property lines, and also, as Tom has brought up, you know, who owns the paper street. I have no problem with the project as it exists if there's this buffer space called Eastern Ave, which is a paper road. But if one of the abutters has a deed that shows that they own that paper road, I think that's really problematic for us to go ahead and
Did you want to
say,
see this too, that
yeah,
shows
I-
where it ends?
you know, when you can't verify property ownership, that's a problem. So, I mean, you know, I have an issue until we get a couple of surveyors, and I'm cognizant of what the property owner's attorney said here,
back in 2016.
Yeah, and she refers to lengthy and costly court proceedings, and it's not worth pursuing, and so on and so forth, but, you know, that still presents us here on the board with a thorny issue of, well, we think we have buffer space, and the person most affected by the buffer space may own the buffer space, or they may not own the buffer space, because if there's an error in his deed, which I'm starting to wonder if that may be the case, we have an issue.
Okay, thank you. Fidelis?
Thanks.
Well, I do echo the same sentiments. At the end of the day, you know, and which I did raise at the last meeting, and which, you know, that's why they are here. They far exceeded the zoning requirement for, you know, lot coverage, and if the paper road, from the correspondence from the attorney, you know, which I think is really helpful, you know, says that each abutting owner should indirectly own 1/2, right, of the paper road. So if, and you know, Tom says that when he looked up the information, from what he saw, that the paper road, or where that section actually belongs to the
abutter.
the abutter, right? So I think that puts us in a difficult situation, because that further decreases, right, the actual you know, lot space of the applicant, and so.
I don't think the paper road was used in any calculations in their application.
It was not.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Liz?
It wasn't used in the application, but it was used during the meeting to say that they really have more property than what the property lines are, because they own half the street, so they really own the land the shed is on.
No, ma'am, that's not what we're saying. We don't even want, they can.
But that's what it was, my recollection is, it was originally brought up
As a buffer.
to stay that, and it was stated, but according to the assessor's map, the street, Eastern Ave doesn't go that far, it doesn't go behind, the lot that we're talking about. So, that's
I
why,
don't
to
think
me,
that's
the
on the-
paper street came into play.
Could I look at that again, Liz?
Paper Street, Ms. Thorpe?
No, I think you guys covered the paper street.
You know, I might be a little, these are the lots we're talking about, 24 and 26.
26,
This would be 28 over here. And this is labeled 24, and this is both of the lots now, right?
20,
This is-
the one right there,
This
that's the lot.
30-foot wide lot is there,
Yes.
is the one we're talking about.
Yeah.
This section right here,
Right,
is 30 feet wide.
yeah.
When you look at this dimension, this lot above here, which is, the address of it is 16 Eastern Avenue, right here. That's 16 Eastern Avenue. So Eastern Avenue once did have a house on it, and it's right here. Well, this lot is, each side is divided into two dimensions. This is 72 feet and 25 feet, and this is 44 feet, and this is 25 feet. That 25 feet is the paper road.
And you won't find that on the assessor's map, because
This
they
is the
right, but they won't show the whole road go through, because they don't need to use that. They haven't used that road to actually have to put it on the assessor's map, is what I got from the attorney's paperwork.
isn't this they just haven't, it's actually deeded to this piece of property. That's what I was reading from here. So that it does actually have an owner, and it's this lot back here. The mitigating thing is that none of the neighbors have come up. Everything has been positive from anyone who talked about it. That's the mitigating thing on this. That we still have to deal with the density and the runoff and so forth, but
All right, so my take on the paper street is what's the big deal? However, I think that the answer to my own question is, I don't know.
I totally agree with that.
And, you know, what I would like to see is somebody leading me by the nose, whether it be a lawyer, whether it be a surveyor, that is pointing me in the direction that this is not a big deal.
Like I said, we're not trying to use that.
No, I completely understand. But, you know, Tom's brought up great points, the board's brought up great points regarding that paper street, and I'm just getting the vibe that we're antsy about it. And the reason why we're antsy about it is we got, you know, a little bit of some conflicting information here. We got deeds that purport to say one thing. We have assessor's maps that purport to say something else. And then we have something from, you know, 1928 that you know, who knows? So I wish that there was some synthesis of this information that we can rely on as a ZBA to put that issue to rest. Because of, you know, it deeded to somebody else and
As I
and all
said,
of that.
I'm sorry that I brought up the paper road.
No, you know,
I brought it up as a separation for the back property, that's it.
yeah.
I didn't wanna own it, we don't wanna use it. The building department has already said I have to pull that shed off.
Yeah. And, you know, frankly, I don't wanna make a big deal about a paper street if it's not a big deal.
We don't want it, we don't wanna use it.
No, I understand. But there's just some consternation about it. So that's it. I mean, so that's the paper street. The second issue that we have, that I'm gonna throw back to my colleagues here, is the, you know, up to the 50% lot coverage. And, you know, frankly, regarding the special permit, the intensification of the nonconformity, and whether or not it's more detrimental, I'd like to have some discussion about 50% lot coverage. Tom?
you know, I go down to the Cape and stay at a place called the Campground in Harwichport. And it's houses that are packed in next to each other. You've got a neighbor right behind the fence, and you got another neighbor right behind this fence, and no one cares. And so I'm not too concerned with that. We try to take care of the drainage, which is one of the problems that's been decided. So from that standpoint, I think we've covered it. It's not like you're going to add any more people there by putting a porch on the back. So the population density is not increased. The drainage is not, density is not increased. The difficulty I still have with it is whether or not we could justify creating the additional nonconformity of having only 11 feet behind the building.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
How about we shorten it, so we keep the 15 feet from the back? If we keep the 15 feet from the property line, it's just a screen porch. If we need to shorten it up 4 feet, so be it. If that makes everything easier and keeps all the setbacks,
I think we've come to some sort of compromise. I mean, I just threw the idea out as I've never built a house before, I don't know these things, I'm like, oh, it would be great to
And it
have
looks-
this.
it looks
So I
way
had
different.
no idea that, you know, there was building issues or whatever. So you have to forgive me, I've never been through this process before. So, you know, I was thinking big, but if, you know, having that, just that 11 feet isn't enough, and, you know, I wanted to go out 15 feet, and maybe we compromise at like 10, something like that, then that would be fine.
15 is what we need back there.
15 was the ask, the original ask, but if it can't be 15, then what would you be comfortable with?
Do you have that number? What is the number, the back, the
The
back?
setback,
Setback.
Right now,
No, you have 11 on the drawing, that we know. But what is the legal, 15, is that?
15 feet.
15.
Okay.
All right, so, I mean, that brings the lot coverage down a little bit, right?
If you brought back 5 feet, you have a 4-foot deck. That would take, it's how wide? It's 20 feet wide.
30, 20,
You'd have
20
100
feet,
feet
right?
less roof.
So 100.
Tom, anything else at this point?
No. No, that's a,
Lot coverage, Mary Ann Thought.
My only, and it's not a concern, but you have your studio, it's already up, it's in place. So I'm just, I know you want something bigger, but it doesn't sound like it's too small. So how big was that addition gonna be from what you have now?
She wanted to extend that room 6 feet. The room was going to extend 6 feet, and then we were gonna have a 9-foot porch.
And how big is the room now that you brought before us back in the summertime?
12 by 14?
Maybe 12 by 14, but you got bathroom doors and everything, so really usable space is about 12 foot by 12 foot.
Yeah.
but you'd go across the whole back, 6 feet by 20
Right.
feet. Yeah.
So you have a studio
Well,
right now, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. So you already have a space that's considered your studio that you built back when you came before us in the summer. And now it's not a big enough space for you.
Well, I work from home as well,
Mm-hmm.
so there really isn't room there now for a home office, and I think.
Did you take into consideration when you came before us in the summer, like, the size of that room? And it was a good size for you at that time, so I'm just trying to understand why it's not now, that's all.
I thought, in my head, I thought it would be bigger. Like I said, I've never done this before, so once it was framed up, I was like, oh, I really would like this to be a little bigger.
Okay. That's all I got.
Yep. Liz?
Oh, I was looking at the plan.
Skip to Fidelis?
No, the 50% lot coverage is just, like I said in the last meeting, I just couldn't, and being 11.7 feet from the end of the property line, to me, is way too close, it's way too, the words I'm looking for.
You walked out back, right?
What?
You walked out back.
I did walk out back.
This is kind of dead and overgrown out there.
And I had stated that at the last meeting that I probably could live with the 6-foot addition. And then you would have 20 feet to the property line. You still would be increasing the nonconformity, but not as much as not near the 50%. So that's what those are my thoughts at the moment.
Fidelis?
Same thing as last week. And, same concern that everybody has expressed. I think 49%, roughly 50%, that's a lot. And, I know it's nice, it's going to be a nice development, it's going to be a nice, when it's all done, it's going to look really nice, but I'm concerned about setting the precedent, because I don't see any real compelling reason. That's what it is for me. In some instances, yes, okay, I could understand, maybe there's something lacking, there's something really not there, but in this instance, it's more of a convenience rather than a real necessity. So, I'm just concerned about having to set a precedent, and if we do this one time, then what justification do we have not to do it for somebody else? So,
That's one of the things about the board, though, that I think Marge would tell us right away,
yeah.
is that we're not a precedent-setting board. This, what we're talking about here, has nothing to do with anybody else in town.
Yeah.
It's not
And
just
it
the neighbors
wouldn't-
want something, or
If someone else came in looking for the same thing, and the situation was this much different, it wouldn't matter what we did for these people. So that, don't worry about the precedent angle of it, I think. But that's what Marge would say. However, we still got all the other issues to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're not a precedent-setting board per se, but when it comes to special permits, we certainly have had our share of attorneys come in here, and who've done their due diligence and argued that we've done this for one, and why are we not doing it? And it actually brings up some very creative allegations regarding, why we've done something for one property owner and not the other. So, I certainly understand it's not a precedent-setting board per se, but with special permits, it's a little bit different.
I hear you.
Michael? 50% lot coverage.
Yeah, 50% lot coverage, yeah. I guess if we're, if people are willing to cut back a little bit, maybe if we can maintain 15 feet from the property line, and sacrifice a screened-in porch or a part of a screened-in porch or something like that. I think that makes it more reasonable, all of these other factors considered, to approve somewhat of a modification on that basis, that they maintain 15 feet from the lot line. I think if we could get that agreed to, I would be inclined to grant the special permit.
You're suggesting a deck as opposed to a screened-in porch?
Just
So may I interject?
It's a porch.
If my math is correct, which it might not be, but I believe if they took off the back deck, the lot coverage would only be 42%.
yeah, it's only 46 or 47.
That's the porch?
If they took the porch off and just
Okay.
put the addition on so she could have her studio space,
Okay.
then it would bring down the lot coverage to about
Would be what
42%.
percent?
And if it-
42,
If it pleases the board,
Because the porch is an additional 9 feet, right?
right, which then encroaches on that 15-foot setback.
What is it as it is, without any additions?
48.8. Oh, without,
I think it's 39.
39.
39.
Yeah.
39?
So I think they went down 1% with
Yeah.
the raise and rebuild.
Okay, so,
Sorry, Kevin, he was going to say something,
Oh.
right?
go right ahead, I'm sorry.
I haven't said it. I thought it was
So I'm just gonna weigh in,
like.
I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna give you the measurements. The house is 1,000 square feet, the front porch is 8 by 20, it's 160. It's 1,160 square feet on a 3,000 square foot lot. That's the math.
Okay, for me, 50% lot coverage is problematic for the reasons that we have discussed on the board, by the board members. So now you've certainly got the vibe of the board, right? I mean, and if we had to take a vote now, I think I'm not,
You never really know.
you know, right, so, but here's the thing. You've come to the table and are willing to compromise.
Correct.
And I think what I would want to see, and I think the rest of the board members would want to see, is another set of drawings with your proposed changes. Something in writing. I'm not comfortable doing all of the math.
Can I draw it? Because when you take it to the architect, it costs money.
No, I understand that. I mean, you can, if you want to draw it,
Well, I guess we're
I mean, I
allowed-
can't tell you what to do. You know, that's not really,
Well, if it saves time and I could draw a picture real fast right now, rather than continuing the meeting for like another month.
We wouldn't be able to. We wouldn't be able to continue it because we're gonna have new board members. They wouldn't be able to vote.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
If we continue this another month, we have to start over.
I'd rather see if we can come up with some kind of compromise while we're already here.
I mean, in my mind, just,
15-foot setback, if that's the problem. No roof on the porch, that'll solve a little more runoff from the porch roof.
Can we grant an approval subject to
conditions.
receiving a revised plan that shows clearly that that addition, proposed addition, is going to be 15 feet?
I don't see why
from
not.
the rear lot
We
line?
asked that last time and they said no, and they said that's not a good idea. Didn't at our last meeting, we mentioned
yeah, I mean,
that?
I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, if we're gonna do that, then I think I mean, you can draw something up. I mean, it's 7:30 now.
5 minutes right there.
And then we can take a vote. You know, we still have the paper street issue, which I'm not comfortable with, and a number of board members are not comfortable with.
But if we stay far enough away from the paper road, or whoever owns that property there, that should take care of that with the setback.
Yeah, what are you suggesting? Just putting on the 6-foot addition? Or are you suggesting putting a part of the porch or?
We could put the 6-foot addition and still have 4 feet of porch and still have 15 feet to their property line, but I don't need to put a roof on the porch.
How much would that be, percentage-wise?
You want-
We're going from certified plans to something that's sketched out. I mean, we
Can't.
Well, how about we just,
I mean, this is the plan they gave us. They just removed this.
Yeah, just remove the porch.
Remove the porch.
So,
Okay.
I think what my vision of the compromise would be that no porch,
Mhm.
and that the addition would be 10 feet. So it was originally 15-foot ask. We bring it back to 10, so then we have 15 feet to the property line. And I can have the house be bigger,
This is the 6
and I'd be willing to let go of the porch. So turn the 15 feet, which was gonna be 6 foot of house and 9 foot of like a screened porch. Get rid of the screened porch and just make the addition on the back 10 feet. Or 9 feet, or like whatever, but just have that addition on the back and no porch.
And now you're getting closer to 50% again, if you're adding.
But it would be 15 feet away from the property line
That's,
instead of 11 feet.
yeah, that's just one, because they're several non-conforming, so the setback is one thing, and then the lot coverage is another thing.
So, the question is, what to do about it.
45 and a half.
Take a vote. If the project does not get approved, then you're starting over again.
With the smaller addition.
Yeah, and you come before the board again. Maybe a different configuration on the board. Again, 7 members, versus 5 or 6. But, yeah, I think Mary Ann's right that we've got to close this thing out at this meeting. Or schedule this for another meeting this month.
My question would be how many people could attend a meeting on the 28th, though? Would we have a full board?
Be in Nashville.
How long are you two here for?
What's that?
When are you finished?
This month, right?
Yeah, the 21st is their last meeting, so next week.
So I won't be at that one, unless there's another day that we can get together. Because I think what I'm sensing is there's a discomfort with making modifications, not having the documented calculations, doing all of this in minutes in our head, and not having it in a certified plan in front of us. Is that right?
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard to vote on a cut and paste
Right.
plan. If there was one line on this, that we could say, take the porch off.
Is this the plan you're looking at?
Yeah.
Is that the same one that I have? Because on this one it says it's 39%, the house right now is 39%.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
That's
saying, we've got the one that has the porch drawn on it.
This is, I'll need this back, but this is what they're looking at.
It's the one, it's dated 11/30/17.
So this is that's the building, the porch addition.
Okay. That is a little copy that I gave you.
Yeah.
We just stipulated that the porch could be added, but the deck cannot be added. And stop right
6-foot
there.
addition.
Yeah.
That's, but not the porch.
I mean, we either try to continue the meeting so they can dot all the i's and cross the t's on new plans and new math.
Mm-hmm.
Or we take a vote and, if they end up not prevailing, then they would need to refile, but they need to do all of that, they're gonna need to do all of that anyway in front
Right.
of the new board.
So you're, let's see if there's any other things.
We don't know what
I
they
mean-
want to do yet.
We don't. So, I mean, I think those are the options.
I mean, if they tonight just decided to take off the proposed porch, we have that plan in front of us of the 6-foot addition, which is an actual plan, not something, sketched. I think that would be my suggestion, one suggestion. But it still is gonna increase the nonconformity of the lot coverage, just not up to the 50%. So I'm not sure that continuing the hearing will change the outcome of the vote
I
tonight.
see what you mean by all the information wouldn't be, wouldn't that be
Correct on the
accurate?
plan, I mean, we, it's a problem in that the math on the plan which we're gonna be relying on is not gonna be accurate.
That is the new plan that I had drawn with the addition on it.
Right, but now we're taking off a porch.
Right, so if you just take off the 9 feet of porch and you stick with the addition, it will be the same thing, it just won't have a covered roof. So that'll save the detriment to the drainage. takes 180 square feet off the lot coverage.
What do you think, Liz?
Well, let's say that we took a vote and that's what we voted, let's say it was the 6-foot addition. All this information here, though, would have to be changed.
Right.
The lot coverage would just come down,
All
the setbacks and everything, we can just, you can add the 9 feet to the setback.
I would frankly like to, I mean,
It could
I
be
would
a-
frankly
could it
like
be-
to see an amended plan, an amended certified plan. That's what I would like to see. I mean, they've already done it. They can take the porch off, they can redo the math and present an amended plan. That's what I would like to see. I'm sorry for holding it up. I mean, but that frankly is what I would like to see.
Before we send them out, with that, still that question is, what kind of lot coverage? I know we're already well over the lot coverage, but we were at 40. We got down to 39. If we only put the 6 feet on, that would be at 42 and a half lot coverage. If we put that on in part of the deck, then we might go to 44 or 45. What can we buy? I'd be okay with 45 personally, but is that something we can live with, or would you want them to just put, where do you think, because we're asking them to draw lines when they get out of here, and we want to know that they've drawn lines that we can live with.
Well, I mean, I think the applicant now is armed with a lot of information that through our questioning, our comfort level, and I would like to see, again, a certified amended plan with math, and maybe somebody take a look at getting that number down as close as reasonably possible to the figure that you came in with.
So I guess I would just like a little clarity, and I would like to walk away with a little more assurance of, as Tom said, what you would approve.
Yeah.
That if 15, like a 15-foot addition, no. 6-foot or a 10-foot or whatever, or coverage, 42%, 45%, whatever you would feel comfortable with, and I could feel like, okay, if we go back and redesign and present it, and we take the time and spend the money, or the drawings and so forth, I don't want to come back and have you say no.
Yeah,
I would just give
Right.
up now.
No, you
and
can't promise her
say, okay,
that.
well, we tried and it didn't work out and we couldn't get it passed.
I completely understand your point of view. I really do. The whole board does. But the answer to that question is, and I think I gave it to you, is that take a look at this plan and see how reasonably close you can get to what you originally came in here with.
The 39%.
It's only 1% more.
39.
It's only 1%. We brought it back into conformity by 1%.
Okay. Then that ought to be an easy amendment for your plot planner to do up, come back with the additional math, and
But you only, I'm a little bit confused. You only want us to add the 1% to bring it back to where we were before?
I can't tell you what to add and what to subtract. I'm just saying that,
I'm just
here's the
trying to-
problem. This board, we all seem to have an issue with two things. One, the paper street, which is an issue for what we discussed, and two, the 50% lot coverage. Now, you know, I don't know, we can't tell you to bring it down to 41% and we're okay with that.
Why not?
I know you want that, and that's this thing, but I'm not comfortable doing that. But what I am comfortable saying is that, for me, and I'm just one vote on this board, and I'm not trying to sell my colleagues on anything here, we're all each individual members here. But from my comfort level, I would like to see a revised plan with what you think you can do to perhaps accomplish your goals and get this project down, close to what you came in here with. Like 39,
Just, that's what the house is right now. That's what the new house is right now, it's 39%
What was the
coverage.
original house, 40?
30,
Correct.
41 or 42%.
yeah. Okay.
And
And
that's
then-
what you're referring to as original?
Because
Because 1% would be like a 1 foot by 20 foot addition.
yeah, I'm having a hard time with that because if you want to stick with the 39%, they can't put any addition on
No,
it.
that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm
but-
saying get as reasonably close to what you originally came. It might be 42%, it might be 43%, I don't know. But I know what it's not. It's not 50%. It's not 49%.
You have to be apologizing to me. I still don't quite get what you're saying, though. You want us to bring it back down to the 41%?
I think what Kevin is saying is come down as close as possible. He's not giving a number, but he's saying, you've gotten a feel for the board, and I'm sure you can sense where we are. So, look at the numbers, look at your plan, and see, how much can you reasonably, increase what you've done, what you did originally to that, how can you increase it to a point that you think it's going to be comfortable, we are going to be comfortable, so it's something you have to determine, because he hasn't said, make it 39% or make it 41%,
Yeah, can't do that,
just
but I mean,
use your discretion and, come up with something that you think is going to work.
And keeping back in mind the setback from the property line. I'm doing that. Farther from the property line, the better.
Okay.
I believe these are just suggestions. You can decide what you want to do tonight.
Right.
Okay.
Because you don't know how, when you come back, how the board's going to vote.
I understand, it's a crummy position for y'all to be in. But, we got some interesting issues here with the paper street
Very unique.
and
Yes.
that,
I'm not even kidding you.
I know, that's causing some trepidation, some nervousness on our part. That's an obstacle for, at least for me, to go ahead and just, grant this and find in favor of the special permit. So, that's the question, whether or not you want to continue this, based on the feedback that you've gotten from the board. And if you do, when can we get in here? Versus taking a vote today and having to potentially starting this project all over again.
It's entirely up to you.
To be honest with you, there are so many other factors with me moving and finishing the house, and to be honest with you, I think I'm gonna give up. I don't think you're ever gonna approve any kind of addition to the house because of the lot percentage coverage, and that's fine. And we came and we asked and we heard, and I think that I would be too nervous to go away and come back with some kind of compromise and hope that you would approve it, and I would probably have to spend $5,000 on more drawings, and it would probably take 2 or 3 more months, and I'm trying to sell the house that I live in now to move here, so we need to get this house done, and this could go on for another 6
No, I
months,
understand.
and
Yeah.
I just think I don't think I can do it.
Okay.
So I appreciate your time and consideration, but I think I'm feeling pretty defeated, and I think I'm just gonna give up.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way.
I am too.
I know you are.
We came back in good faith, and I thought offering a compromise might help us to get to a resolution, but I just don't have any sense of confidence that if we came back with, a 6-foot or a 7-foot addition or whatever,
Yeah.
that it would get approved. And I just, I'm not getting any sense of that.
You're in a
And
tough spot.
I just, yeah, so I think I'll just give up.
So is it your intention, well, is it your intention to withdraw your application for the?
No, we would like the board to vote today. If she's gonna back out today, let's let the board vote, see what happens. We'll throw the dice.
If they withdraw without prejudice, can't they come back at a later date, right?
Yes.
And if you vote today, am I correct that they'd have to wait a year
Right.
to apply again?
If we say, if the vote is not in their favor, they have to wait 2 years?
At least one.
1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
But if they withdraw without prejudice, you could come back next
Anytime.
summer, or
Or in 2 months,
Or
you know.
Yeah, in 2 months, I mean.
anytime. If you decide, if you think, you know what, I should have had that 6 foot, I'm gonna try, try it again. But if
So
you
I'll
vote and
withdraw
say
that.
no, then you can't come
I'll have
back
it
for
drawn
a
up.
year.
If we can get another meeting, continue this, I will have it drawn up.
It's not.
Redrawing the
continuous,
paper.
drawn, right?
What's that?
It costs
It's not a
$4,500.
continuance,
It
it's
costs
a withdrawal.
$4,500 to draw this paper. It costs $4,500 to draw the first paper. So you're $9,000 in paperwork right now, that's an awful lot of money to throw away. I'm not sure that everybody understands that it costs $9,000 for the paperwork to be in the file right now. $9,000.
We do understand, sir, we do.
And I was confused, because I thought we came to the zoning board because we were going over the lot coverage, and we were close to the back line. So I thought that the reasons that came up in the chapter, the separation, the detriment, anything that happens to the neighborhood, I feel that we pretty much covered that. The paper road is still an issue, I guess. We don't want to use it. I threw it out there for separation.
Well,
So, can you, is that what the special meeting is for, though? Is that why we came to the special meeting? Because we were going over the lot coverage and we were encroaching on the back lot line? I'm very new at this, too. I don't know what this
yeah,
is.
I
You
mean,
know
no,
what I'm saying?
you came here because you had a non-conforming lot
Correct.
that, and we, back in whenever it was, the summer, approved your request to build what you wanted to build.
Yes, sir.
And then there was a change to that. And that change potentially increased the non-conforming nature of your lot. And that's essentially why you needed to come forward on a special permit. So that's it. So the issue isn't the first project, it's the addition that you want to do
Oh, I absolutely understand.
and the issues that it creates for that already small lot.
I totally understand that.
And I'm sorry you're in this predicament. But at this particular point, I think there are potentially 2 routes to go. One is withdraw your application without prejudice and refile. Again, there's only 6 of us here tonight. We're missing a board member, and, the last time why we scheduled it for today is because we thought we were gonna have 7 members. Always better to go before a board with 7 members than less than 7 members. That's one. And you could, come back in 2 months and with revisions, before a 7-member board, and it would be an outcome. The other thing you can do is, we can take a vote tonight, not sure how the vote would go, but if you don't prevail, now you gotta wait a year before you can submit another special permit.
That'll be your call. I had to find out whatever you wanna do. I will. So there you go, the picture.
I'm really sorry. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. I'm not sure what to do. I honestly don't think, I think I just have to have an open conversation. There's nothing that you all can't hear. I think in terms of, you know, the project and me selling Chelsea and leaving the Sturbridge, like,
You can always do
I
that
don't
addition
think we
later
have
on.
time.
You can always do the addition later on. I can build it on the back. The inside's almost finished now. I can build it on the back and pull the wall out. If you come back in a month or 2 months and they approve it, we can always put that on without cutting into the house to the finished house until that's finished.
Take your time, don't
Yeah.
feel rushed.
We're not in a hurry.
It's a big decision.
Yes.
This
Make
is a
me
very big
understand
decision.
that.
I don't know why I'm getting a little,
No, I understand.
I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do.
Jeff, is the porch on the house?
Or she can continue.
Is the porch already on the house?
No, the porch is not on the house. Nothing is on the house.
Oh,
It's under
front porch,
construction.
I mean,
Front porch.
or it could
The
be,
front porch is
or we
already
can
on, yes.
continue it, but the question is.
We're gonna have 7 board members.
Are we gonna have
The
7
front porch
When
was
is
part of the
next-
original
When's
project.
the election?
Okay,
It's the back porch and the
Yes, I
addition
know.
on the
First week of
back.
April.
I just, that's 160 square feet that,
Well,
I think,
Right, on the front.
yeah.
But it's put in here on my paperwork, and it shows 39% with the front porch.
Yes, I know. I just, if it wasn't there, I'd say
There he is.
reconsider it, you know? But
Be in Nashville.
there's another,
clear to me that it would not pass tonight. So I don't think it's worth taking the risk on the vote tonight, because I think the vote would be no.
I'm behind you 100%, whichever way you wanna go.
So,
But if you wanna give up, let them vote. If you don't even wanna think about it anymore, let them vote. What do you care if you can't come back here in a year, but you can't come back here in 2 years?
I don't know, I think it would be better not to vote, because then at least we leave our options open.
Excellent.
That if, you know, I don't know how quickly Chelsea's gonna sell, you know,
And like I
you
said,
know,
that's not gonna
all
stop
that.
you from finishing the house
I
right
think
now.
that we just need to finish the house and move on. And then at some point, if I can afford to come back and spend another $5,000 on drawings and come back, then we could do that.
Once you're there, you might think, you'd be thinking about what you really want. You know what I mean? You're living there, so
Clear
things
on
will
that.
occur to you like, oh, I should have this instead of that, or. you know what
Well,
I'm saying?
yeah, I think I've been through that process, and unfortunately, because I work from home and the office space turned out to be way too small, and for the type of work I like to do, you know, I know what I need, so I'm disappointed in the project. It's not, the house isn't as big as I thought it was gonna be, and the workspace isn't as big as I thought it was gonna be, but, you know, I'll find, I don't know, we'll come up with some other solution. So I think I've been through that process enough, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable that I would be very happy. What I really want is if instead of doing the 6-foot addition and the 9-foot porch, forget the porch completely and make the addition, just put in lots more windows, so in the summertime it could feel like a porch, but not the usable space year-round, but I could have, you know, the feel of a porch and room for a guest bed, that type of thing. So just a little more usable space. So that's ideally, that would be the ideal thing. In retrospect, I think the screen and porch, at first it seemed like a really good idea, because I'm sure that neighborhood is buggy and it's wet out there. So I thought, well, in the summertime, if you have people over, to be able to eat outside, but have a screen and porch would be wonderful. But then that porch is only gonna be usable maybe half the year. So that then, you know, rethinking, that seemed like, well, that's not such a great idea. So then if I just made like a sunroom kind of addition instead of the porch, then you could use it year-round. I'd have more room in the studio, because there could be like an archway in between the 2 rooms, but I could also fit in like a pull-out couch for guests. I don't have a guest room right now, So there'd just be a lot of, it would make the house, for me personally, way better if I could have this extra room. That's all.
I understand. And we all do.
So, I don't think we should vote tonight.
Okay. If you're giving up on it.
I think I am giving up.
Well,
I
Leaving
just
your
don't
options
get-
Looking at it
open.
the wrong way.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're artists, right? And perhaps there is a way to refit everything and give Ms. Fitzgerald, what she wants with a little more creativity and, I don't know. I mean, I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer, but.
But if you could give us any indication of what percentage of lot coverage might be okay, that would make our lives a lot easier to make a decision for the future. If we do come back with the plan drawn up, that we would, it's kind of, that's a big gamble. To just be shooting in the dark, like, well, maybe maybe they'll approve 7 feet or 8 feet or whatever. It's too risky for me. And and if you can't give that kind of indication of what would be reasonable so that people would approve it, then that's fine, that's okay. But then you just have to tell me that you cannot give me indication, and you did.
Yeah,
But I do wish that we could be a little more collaborative and that you could give me some indication.
Can we ask the members of the board what they'd be comfortable with? What would you be comfortable with?
I mean, we're not, we're, sort of a quasi-judicial body giving advice. I mean, we're here to take a look at we're like judges, kind of. We're here to take a look at the evidence, apply it to the bylaws, and to the best of our ability, render a decision that we think is in concert with the bylaws. That's what we're about. So we're not, I mean, there are, you shouldn't give up, I don't think, if this is really important to you. But I think that, perhaps looking at the project in a different way, maybe maybe there's some changes that can be done that, don't fall too outside what you came in here with originally.
Are there any guidelines anywhere in the city of Sturbridge that sort of stipulate what lot coverage is supposed to be? Is
Yes.
there some
Yes.
kind of law?
15%.
15%.
What-
That's a little
Only
difficult.
bylaws.
The bylaws.
Yeah.
But again, you purchased a non-conforming lot, so it's not that easy. And you are entitled to do exactly what you have done. Come before the ZBA.
Okay.
I
But,
think that-
again, we're a little bit on the uncomfortable side here, and we all feel, I think, pretty terribly.
Oh, I didn't mean to cry. I was just feeling
Oh, no, we,
overwhelmed with
I
the
understand
decision.
that, but I mean, you got,
It's happened before.
I'm
empathetic, got a very
this is
empathetic zoning board of appeals, and we just are uncomfortable, hinky, nervous, whatever term that you want to use.
I think this is a really hard project to look at, and I'm new. I haven't seen that many, but this was a hard project to look at. And I think that some of your questions might be able to be answered by the town planner. And if you were to withdraw without prejudice tonight, you could sit down with her and maybe have some better answers. And she might be, even though the board and Jean, Ms. Boumon wouldn't say this either, give you a % number, but I think she'd be able to guide you in maybe some projects that she's seen and could provide you some examples of, and more numbers with coverage, to help you work through the project.
Yeah. I mean, you head in the right direction, and I think that, for me, I'll just tell you, I want to see, or I would want to see a revised plan with the math all done and precisely, when we include that in the record of our vote, that we are we're citing a revised plan with correct mathematics, with all of that, correct dimensions, and a correct drawing.
So I believe if you did decide to withdraw without prejudice and come back at a later date, you have your base plans done already, so you would just need the new drawing of the addition and to place the fee for the legal ad, and that's it. So it wouldn't be nearly the expense that you've already invested in this project.
Thank you for your time.
So I think we need to hear from you what you would like to do. Would you like to withdraw your application without prejudice?
Listen, okay, we can finish the house the way it is right now. There's
Okay.
nothing, we can finish
Just
everything.
finish the
The
house.
only thing that will, if it gets approved when we come back, there'll be a separation in the floor that goes to the back room. Everything else can be done, and I can put that on as an addition after the house is complete. I'd rather not waste all that money on the siding on the back, so if we left that off and then came back before we did all the siding on the back, I can still finish what's there. Well, you're just about there now. I'm down to floors and cabinets. We're good.
So.
We can get a CO so that you can move into the house and live there. But let's not wait that long to bring it back to them, because I think I can have the engineer draw my paperwork in a week, maybe 4 or 5 days. If I go sit at his desk and push him a little bit.
So we could come back,
This isn't gonna stop the house from being finished, if that's what you're worried about. Sell Chelsea, you can get rid of that thing.
yeah, that's what I worried
We can finish
about,
the
that
house, you
if
can
this
move
were
in.
to drag on, and then I couldn't move in.
Oh,
and
no,
then
that
I-
Well,
has
no, I
nothing to
think
do-
that if you withdrew without prejudice, we would allow that, we'd take a vote on it, we would we would allow it, I'm sure, that you wouldn't have to wait.
If they vote, you
If
have
they
to wait a
vote,
year.
now you.
Right,
If
that's
they
why
don't
I
vote,
don't-
and we just leave without prejudice,
Yeah.
or withdraw without prejudice, I can still finish your house, you can still live in there. I'd much rather get this going before that, you know what I'm saying, so we can
Yeah.
get that going.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It looks
all right.
like April 18th would be the next CBA meeting, so you could come back as early as then.
Okay, I'm actually away that week, so.
Okay.
I couldn't, so, okay, so we could just leave that to be determined.
But
on
we,
the return.
we all know kind of where this is going, so if I came back for the special meeting with the paperwork, that would be okay, right? I don't,
Yeah, you
I
certainly
don't have
could
to have Ruth
represent
here.
your client, absolutely.
Okay, so you wouldn't have to be here? It's better if you cry, though.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, no.
I'm so embarrassed. I just,
No, no.
Don't
I
be
just
embarrassed.
got
It's
overwhelmed,
important.
you know.
Number one
I've
rated,
never built a house
number one rated
before.
cable show. 15 people saw you, don't worry about it.
Hope
I've
to be on
never
Roku
built a
next
house
month.
before, and there are just so many decisions from
Yep, I know.
every little thing, and I'm
It
kind of
can
like
be overwhelming.
getting over, yeah, there's so much to decide, and this just kind of.
I know.
Do you kind of see what though,
I'm
that
very
it's
sorry.
15% lot coverage and you guys are at 39, so we've already gone high, so you kind of see where we're struggling with the 50%?
But there was 40% there,
Right.
I
It was
and we
not-
just wanted to rebuild what was there, and then we brought it down.
Correct.
Right.
So, would you like to withdraw your application with prejudice?
Do that,
Okay,
and then I will.
Without prejudice.
okay. And then we'll just sort of wait
And
and
then I'll
see
go
how
talk to
it
him.
goes.
I'll bring the
Come
paperwork
back
back.
She has to
whenever you
formally
want.
state it,
Yeah.
right?
All right,
No
so we'll let
pressure.
the record reflect that the applicant withdrew her application without prejudice.
We don't have to buy it, you just have to spend thousands of dollars so that the attorney can take it over.
We need to
You
take a
don't have
vote
to
on
buy
that?
it, it's not for sale,
I think so, yeah.
Okay,
nobody owns it. Or
But yeah,
somebody
did
owns
you-
it,
did she say we
but
have to
nobody's
vote?
used it.
yeah, we're gonna vote on this.
Like the neighbor next door,
Motion?
We don't, we're
That-
waiting for Tom and.
that paper road
Second
that
that
shows on the assessment map, they haven't taken over the rest of the road. That's why the rest of that road is not there, but there still is a paper road.
So,
That road is,
so thank you very much. Really appreciate your advocacy on behalf of your client. At this point, we're gonna take a vote to approve or deny your client's withdrawal of her application without prejudice.
So.
All those in favor? Oh, no. We have a second?
Someone has to make
They
a
already
motion.
Had a
made-
second
they made
from
the
Mary
motion.
Ann.
All right.
Oh, okay.
All in favor? Nothing opposed? Okay. So are we all set now to take a vote on closing the public hearing?
I would just like to remind you, you have those nice piles of paper for next week's meeting. There's 4 projects, and I think there's still some departmental memos that need to be sent out, and we'll get those to you in the next week before the meeting. So review and have fun.
We-
That's all.
This is the public hearing, not the whole meeting.
Right.
That we're
So we want to
closing.
close out the, right.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those
All
in
those in favor?
favor?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good luck.
so now you don't have any pressure on when you return.
Yeah, well, I'm the president, because I just want to hurry get going. So do I need to fill out another application, or this is just continued? Do I need to pay another special permit?
You know, why don't I give you a call with that information after I, okay, yeah, I think we'll be here all day tomorrow.